Hi, my name is Matthew Moniz, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Dell Inspiron 15 7000 series 2-in-1 hybrid PC. Now this was actually announced a few months back in June, but the laptop itself has been refreshed a few times, and this time with the Intel Skylake architecture. Now this laptop is being aimed towards business professionals and people looking for a very solid media consumption device. So let's get started. This year is the year of the hybrid PC, a computer that acts as a laptop but can also be a tablet. They come in all shapes and sizes. Some have the tablet portion removed from the hinges, and others like the Dell 15 7000 2-in-1 act as more of a convertible. The biggest difference is that the convertible method allows you to swing the screen 360 degrees and bend the notebook into a tent or stand shape for easy web browsing and media consumption. The Inspiron 15 7000 2-in-1 combines a classy design with a practical one. The top and bottom cover is made out of this matte soft touch material, which looks and feels great, but it's one of those materials that collects the oil and dirt from your fingers and can get messy over time. The base itself is made out of aluminum and composite materials, with the top sporting chamfered edges. It has this brushed metallic look that looks classy. The metal hinges that hold the screen are strong, and Dell has tested them by opening and closing the lid over 20,000 times. The laptop can be placed in tent mode, stand mode, or laptop mode, and in all three positions the hinges felt sturdy. However, at 4.8 pounds, Dell's laptop feels a little bulky and quite big in tablet mode. In my opinion, the best place for the Inspiron is on a desk using tent or stand mode, which is great for consuming media. Okay, so let's talk about the specs. And the review unit that I have here is the i5-6200U dual core based on the latest Skylake architecture. It has 8GB of RAM, a 500GB 5400 RPM hard drive, and a 15.6-inch 1920 by 1080 touch display. It runs for about 1,030 Canadian or 750 US. There are lots of configuration options to choose from, and this one sits somewhere in the middle. On the low end, it can be bought for 729 Canadian or 549 US with a Pentium processor, which I highly suggest you skip. And at the high end, you can get it with a 256GB SSD and an i7 processor with a 4K touch display. And this will run you about $1,600 Canadian or $1,100 US. Now the Inspiron has lots of ports, and on the left side you have a Noble lock, HDMI port, two USB 3.0 ports, a power port, and an audio jack. On the right lies a single USB 2.0 port, the power button, and volume controls. There's not much on the back but ventilation grills that does a good job and keeps the laptop fairly cool. And finally, the front is clean except for a battery life indication light. By taking off the bottom cover, it shows us what's inside. And as you can see here, there's only one space for your hard drive, and the one that's inside here is 500GB, and it's a 5400 RPM HD. Now, there's only one slot for your RAM, but if you do need more than 8GB, they now make 16GB modules. And finally, the 43 watt-hour battery is actually removable. You can swap it out down the road when your battery life is not as good as it used to be. Opening up the lid reveals a very comfortable looking keyboard, but once you start to actually type, you'll realize that it's not as comfortable as it looks. The keys have a short distance of 1.3 millimeters of travel, which is less than the 1.5 to 2 millimeters most laptops have. If you like to feel the keys being pushed down, then you won't find that here. You have to type very softly in order to get used to it. However, the keyboard does have very little flex, which is great, and there's tons of space to rest your palms. The keyboard is backlit and provides 2 levels of illumination, which is more than adequate in a dark room. Below the keyboard rests a pretty big touchpad, and overall I was happy with the experience. It responded well to my touches, gestures, and pinch to zoom work great. Don't get me wrong, it's not as good as the trackpad on the refreshed XPS 13 or 15, but it's good for a Windows trackpad, and I think that most people won't have any complaints. The 15.6 1920 by 1080 Full HD touch display is decent. You'll probably leave it at full brightness all the time since it's not a very bright display to begin with, and I found the colors to be a little muted. The viewing angles are good, but the screen is glossy, so expect a lot of reflection when you're around light. Touch worked quite well, and I found it to be quite accurate, allowing me to use multi-touch gestures such as pinch to zoom or use all my fingers at once. On the bottom of the display is a Windows Home button, which is mostly used when you're in tablet mode, and on the top is a 720p webcam that works well and perfect for video conferencing. Now when it comes to audio, the speakers are placed below the laptop. It's not my ideal location as I prefer them on top, but they get quite loud. Loud enough to fill a dorm room or a conference room, but they do lack a little bass. Dell includes its own software to control the sound, and I highly recommend leaving it on, as turning it off I found the sound quality to suffer. Next up is performance, and this laptop is meant to consume media and run productivity tasks. Don't expect to be doing any hardcore gaming on it, especially with the ever-slow 5400 RPM hard drive and lack of dedicated GPU. Overall, if getting work done is your top priority, then the integrated 520 GPU and 8GB of RAM is more than plenty to keep you going. I was able to have multiple tabs open, Microsoft Office, and even do some light Photoshop without any issues. Let's talk about heat for a second. And based on regular use, the laptop stayed relatively cool, but the bottom did start to get warm when I was playing Diablo 3. When I ran the heat test, the touchpad measured 83 degrees and the keyboard at 91. The bottom did get hotter at 109. According to Dell, the laptop can withstand temperatures up to 149 Fahrenheit. And finally, battery life. It inside packs a 43 watt-hour battery, which I was able to get about 5.5 hours of use before the battery completely died. My test consisted of watching movies, browsing the web, and using Microsoft Word. I had the screen brightness set to 75%, which means I could have probably pushed it to 6 hours if I lowered the brightness to 50. However, I think most people who use this laptop will probably keep the brightness at 100. Alright, so my closing thoughts. First, don't buy the entry-level Pentium model. The price is very attractive, but the performance is not. If you can start with the i3 or i5 and opt for the version with an SSD drive, it should last you years to come. The Dell Inspiron 15 7000 2-in-1 is fairly slim, lightweight, hybrid laptop that should satisfy most business users. Now the thing is, I also feel it's a good option for students who need a laptop for school. It's portable, it's fast enough to use for productivity tasks, and when you're back in your dorm room, you can easily convert it into tent or stand mode, and it's a very pleasing way to consume media over a conventional tablet. So what's the competition like? Well, there's the Lenovo ThinkPad Yoga 15, the HP Spectre 360, and the Toshiba Satellite Radius P55W. Now, I personally haven't reviewed any of these laptops, but those are the ones you're going to be looking at compared to this one. Now, if you do want me to review them, let me know in the comments below, and I also want to know what you like and dislike about this laptop. I want to thank everyone for watching this video, and if you really enjoyed it or found it helpful, feel free to smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. And I'll see everybody in the next video.